All right, Wastelanders and Vault Dwellers, it is time again for the Fallout Lorecast, and it is the end of June 2021, and that means it's time for our patrons to join us. And so here we are, and we're this episode's a little bit late. Thank you for your patience. We've had a little bit of technical problems and kind of corralling the cats, trying to get everybody together. But here we are, we've made it, and we're going to talk about some really cool concepts when it comes to the tactics of the different groups in the Wasteland and how they handle military tactics and moving their forces against each other, that kind of stuff. And I'm your host, Tom, or Robots, as usual. And Lainey, or Neos Pandora, is here as usual as well, just back from a very long trip and a lot of rain in the car. How you doing, Lainey?
Good. Hello. I'm doing great. I'm very tired.
Yeah, I bet. Well, welcome back. And we also have some of our patrons joining us this week. We've got a few of our tier 4 patrons. And if you are a tier 4 patron and you haven't been able to join us yet, then please let me know what day of the week would be best for you, because we're still trying to figure out what would be best for everybody. So we want to make sure that if you are supporting us at that level, or tier 5 or tier 4 or higher, that you'll be able to join us and get your money's worth. So please let me know what days would work best for you. But this week we have, and I'm going to go down the list, Blank Slater 67. Welcome to the show. How's it going? We got to do the unmute thing because there's a bunch of us in here. So Blank Slater this is Blank Slater's first time joining the show. Blank, you there, dude? You gonna be able to unmute? I don't know if we're having technical difficulties, but if you can hear us, then go ahead and unmute at some point and chime in and say hi. And then we've got back as usual our top tier, absolutely best of all the patrons, biggest and best. You can't beat Liberty Pie. Pie Man, welcome back, buddy. How's it going? He's in his truck as usual, flashing the gang signs.
It's Mucho Gusto.
Mucho Gusto. He's very Spanish today, as if you heard the pre-show conversation. Welcome. Bonjour.
Caliente.
Wait, bonjour. That's not... ciao. No, that's not it either. Then we have Nighttime Smith. Nighttime, welcome back. How's it going?
It's going great. How are you doing?
Doing good. I'm excited that we're finally able to all get together and talk. This is nice. So... this episode of the show, we're going to be talking about military tactics and strategy. And Nighttime, this is kind of your brainchild. This is a bit of your field of expertise. And during the pre-show chat, we talked about it, and he said, have you covered this topic before? And I was like, you know what? I haven't, and I don't know that I would have come up with it on my own, but I'm glad that you brought it up because I think this is really cool. So the way we're going to do this episode is we're going to let you kind of pick a faction and talk about, in general, what their tactics and what their strategy would be when it came to military, movements and goals. And I don't even know the words to use. And then we're going to chime in. So if you guys have any thoughts on any of these things, then feel free to raise your hand or unmute and let me know when you're ready to chime in. So who do you think we should start with first, Nighttime? Do you think we should go with somebody like the Brotherhood, somebody very common that everybody knows about?
Yeah, I think so. This would be a good place to start.
Okay, so when it comes to the Brotherhood, what are we looking at?
We're looking at a highly disciplined military force that has a lot of weapons and equipment, has the ability to deploy themselves as fast as possible across the Commonwealth. They have air superiority, and they are very surgical in their abilities. They only want a few things, and that is to eliminate any mutants and to destroy the Commonwealth and to gain and control high technology that they may come across.
Wait, did you say destroy the Commonwealth?
Sorry, destroy the CIT.
Right, okay, so in Fallout 4, they're clearly against the CIT. In Fallout 3, they're right up against the Enclave forces. In New Vegas, they are a smaller part of the setting there, but they are, they come into conflict with the Legion and some of these other raider groups, and even, I guess, the NCR on occasion, depending on what the goals are. Hey, that's our technology. No, we need it. That kind of thing. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that they're more of a, they represent something that is derivative of what I would consider like a modern United States kind of military. Air superiority, that's big in our military, surgical strikes, technological superiority, highly trained, able to get in and out of a situation very quickly, just focusing on that one goal. They're actually probably pretty good at pivoting from, dealing with things on the ground when they have, they've got power armor and disciplined individuals, people who know how to use different kinds of weapons and handle different kinds of situations. So would you agree that that's a good analogy?
Yeah, very much so. Also, the tactics in general are very much indicative of a first world nation. They're conducting search and destroy missions, usually when they're in certain places. They're trying to find the enemy, they eliminate the enemy, and they secure the area. And if once they've taken what they need or the area is clear, they move on and they don't hold ground. Right.
Interesting. Any of you guys have any other thoughts on this? Do you remember, did you do any playthroughs where you came up against the Brotherhood and had to deal with them as an enemy to yourself? Like, did you side with the CIT or any of these groups that went against them? Anybody have any thoughts on that? Pie Man?
I have a thought. Mucho gusto thought, but yes, I did have I did do a CIT playthrough, like through and through, all the way. It was fantastic. I loved being the evil villain. And it was so weird going against the Brotherhood because my second favorite faction in the entire Fallout universe is the Brotherhood. The first being the Enclave. God bless America. God bless the Enclave.
Okay.
But it was well trained. That you could tell from the playthrough that they were disciplined. It wasn't like in Fallout 3 where they weren't like. I mean, they were disciplined, but they weren't as disciplined. They had a different mission in Fallout 3 than when Elder Maxon came and basically whipped everyone into shape. And basically they built the Pridwin. Basically the all that superiority is a big thing.
Yeah.
Like what I don't think that what I always wondered is why don't they have Stingray fighter jets?
That's a good question. You guys have any thoughts on that? Nighttime?
I always wondered why there wasn't any other capability like that in the game. I mean, you can't call airstrikes. You can only call a vertibird to pick you up, and it doesn't really respond to any threats in the area when it's picking you up or dropping you off. But there is no air support like that. There's no close air support missions. There's no fighter jets. There's no rocket barrages from the Pridwin.
Yeah. Do you think there's a technological limitation or even a development limitation? Like it would have been something nice to do, but they just didn't have the time to implement it.
Like a lot of things with Bethesda has to deal with, sometimes it's a lost cost fallacy and they have to cut it because they can't finish it before the time they got to get the game done.
Sure. Yeah, I can imagine. Like it would be really cool is to have a version of these kinds of games where you are able to, and maybe this is something they'll be able to do with the Creation Engine 2 once they get out Starfield and then Elder Scrolls 6. But the idea of being able to look at the map and, let's say you become the commander of the Brotherhood and you decide I'm going to deploy 200 soldiers to this town because we need to take it. And it's currently super mutant territory. And then, the 300 super mutants that are on the ground there have to deal with 200 Brotherhood soldiers, coming in and, vertibirds dropping them off and some of them maybe even para-dropping in or, fighter jet flying over helicopters, maybe even, or whatever technology they're able to put together, or even power armor soldiers with jetpacks kind of, like the Mandalorian, just kind of cruising over and, shooting down at the super mutants while they're all going, shooting back, and, rockets going into the sky, and like these massive battles that you're able to coordinate, and then you can jump down into the middle of and participate in. Like, that would be amazing. But the amount of CPU resources to handle that, or the GPU resources to handle that, is pretty significant. So I can imagine that being something that you would see in something like an RTS game, where you're looking down at a map and you have these smaller figures with less polygons and less, detailed textures and less AI happening. But for something that works on the way that it would in Fallout 4 would be pretty difficult, but really cool. I mean, I guess we could chalk that up to a, like a future game, maybe Bethesda, like a Fallout Tactics, but better than Fallout Tactics sort of game.
Or Fallout Tactics rebooted.
Yeah, something like that. That would be, but like Fallout Commander, you could be like the Enclave, or you could be like, whatever, in whatever faction, and just like mush them up against each other and see what happens. That could be a lot of fun. Anybody else have any thoughts? Blank Slater? I don't know if your microphone's working. It looks like you're still muted. Hey, there you are.
What was the question again? Sorry.
You have any thoughts about the way the Brotherhood would handle tactics or coming up against them in the games?
Like, I know a lot of it's like about technology and the idea of like they're the only ones that can have the technology. So
right.
Like if they come up across like a town full of robots, they're gonna go after that town because it's got all that technology in it.
Right. And that's another point, is that they often have access to technology that everyone else doesn't have, whether it's rocket technology or lasers or plasma weapons. Right. So I can imagine that they would have tactics around the use of those weapons that work fundamentally a little bit differently than something like ballistics weapons. What do you think, Nighttime?
Yeah, range would definitely you would want to use plasma weapons for shock troops. You could definitely use laser weapons for snipers or shock and awe.
Mm-hmm.
Brotherhood doesn't seem to use ballistic weapons all that much, and I can't blame them. It's kind of nice to have a rifle that, as soon as you pull the trigger, it's already hit the target.
Yeah, and is rechargeable. You don't have to make new ammo. You just have to recharge it.
Yeah, you don't have to mine lead or, manufacture gunpowder or, like I'm trying to do, is trying to find primers, because they're not around.
Right.
Trying to find components. And I can't imagine trying to find components in the wasteland.
Oh, God. No, that would be very difficult. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the CIT, the Institute. Nighttime, what do you think the Institute would do when it comes to tactics, and how would they handle it?
They have a couple different levels. It seems like they want to control what's going on without leaving as much fingerprints as possible, even though that seems to be an impossibility with the way of their MO is. For large engagements, they definitely use Gen 1, Gen 2 synths, and they use their own laser weapon systems, and they will go in, neutralize whoever's in the area, and unfortunately that seems to be towns for the most part. They'll come in, wipe out a whole town, take what they need, leave, or grab somebody. Or they'll send in they're not Terminators, what are they called?
Coursers, yes.
Yeah. So they'll send those in. Those seem to be, they'll use those for things that they don't want to have a big footprint for. And then, of course, replacing people is one of the very special thing that they do that nobody has the ability to do, is that they can just decide to make people disappear and put somebody in there that will do whatever they want to do because they made them to do that. But the tactics in general, infiltrate, control, just neutralize, and eliminate. If anything's a threat to the Institute, they want it gone, and they don't care how obvious it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. So they also have the benefit of working in, replacing individuals internally among their enemies. with synths who don't even necessarily know that they're synths until they're turned on. And so they have kind of like sleeper agents.
The perfect agent. It's an agent that doesn't know it's an agent.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody who can just be
kind of like the mayor in spoiler alert.
spoiler alert.
Anyone hasn't. Mayor Diamond City.
Diamond City. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
Perfect sleeper agent. He doesn't even know it.
Right. And that's the whole point of that, is that like if they're called out ahead of time, then they genuinely say, no, I'm not. How could I be? Like, and it's genuine. And then they're turned on and it's like, well, guess what? You were. Too bad. So
it's like Sturgis. I don't know if a lot of you guys knew this, but Sturgis is actually a synth.
Sturgis?
Parse. Is he a synth because the Institute put him there, or is he a synth because the railroad gave him a new life?
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting question. I haven't thought about Sturgis much.
I killed him once just because I got bored one day, just to see. I was deciding who's who. Who's really trustable around my settlement?
Right. Well,
so
the other thing is that the other thing is that some of the synths are not have broken away from the Institute, and they're no longer connected. They're not. They can't be turned on to become, a hidden agent. They're legitimately individuals who have left. So there's always that dynamic too.
That's the big thing. I think a lot of people don't realize about the Gen 3 synths. They're not really robots. They're like 3D printed human beings.
Right.
And they just make them with a machine, and then they turn them on by whatever mechanism you would turn on a human being. But they're not robots. It's just that one synthetic component that they put inside the brain in order to control them, feed information, or initiate commands. Right. It's like that Manchurian Candidate type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if that part isn't there, or isn't working, or has been disrupted, hacked, whatever, then they're people, as far as you can tell, and they aren't necessarily bound to anything the Institute's going to want them to do. So even if they are a synth, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're working for the Institute. So that dynamic is always difficult. That's one of the key concepts behind Fallout 4, is that question of like, are they people? Can you trust them? All of that. And everybody's going to walk away with different opinions on that, which is one of the things that's so fun about the concept. So we've got the Institute. Anybody else have any thoughts on the Institute and having to deal with the Institute in the game, or their tactics? Yeah, Pieman?
Since I'm the only other patron here, since Blade left.
It looks like he had to leave. Unfortunate. Hopefully things are working out okay. Technically. Well, so go ahead.
We are all forgetting one thing. The teleportation.
Oh, yeah.
The mode of transportation.
Yes.
Like Brotherhood has the vertibirds. The Institute can just go, poof, you're there. Poof, you're not there. Instantly. It's like the perfect delivery system for like a war. Like, you could put people behind your enemy lines and
as safe as possible without having to actually get across the enemy lines.
Well, it's like synth relay grenades. I forgot about that, Pie Man. That's a good point. Mm-hmm. You can buy the grenades from the Institute, and you just toss them, and then they just teleport synths in wherever the grenade goes.
Yeah. That's pretty potent. The idea that you can overwhelm a force when they don't expect you to, by just bringing in reinforcements immediately in whatever place you need to put them. That's a pretty effective ability.
It was one of the things I liked about during my CIT playthrough was teleportation.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's an interesting one. So, okay, so we've got the Brotherhood.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, sure. Okay,
sorry, I know you can't see me, so it's a little weird. I'm just thinking from a defensive point of view, if you're thinking also about the teleportation, you have to teleport to get into the Institute. For other factions, it's unlikely that someone will be able to raid the Brotherhood and succeed, but you could do it. You can't get into the Institute unless you can teleport inside.
Right. You have to have somebody inside already, which is basically plays into the storyline when you're up against them. This idea that you'd have to have someone on the inside to kind of deal with them. Otherwise, how else are you going to find them? How do you even know where they are? Pie Man?
Or have a big metal robot blasting through the ruins.
Right. Yeah, and then eventually, you find them, you dig them up. Blank, do you have any thoughts on the Institute and having to deal with synths and teleportation and all of that stuff? Or being on their side and leveraging that in conflict?
As playing the games and seeing like what the Institute is all about, I feel like scaring people is like one of their big tactics.
Okay,
so like, you're stealing people. What are we gonna do? Right. Yeah, you must have a rough signal. You're kind of breaking up as you come in, but I got the whole point about scaring people. That's true as well. Putting fear into your enemies and the distrust of anybody else that's already on their side is another big thing, because that breaks morale. This idea that you don't know for sure that the person you're fighting next to isn't a synth. I mean, look at the way things played out with the Brotherhood and Paladin Dance. I mean, was Maxon right for kicking him out or for almost killing him? Or, would you have trust Paladin Dance if you were up against the Institute and you saw numbers of other people turn because they were synths? And would you ever feel safe? How does that work? So yeah, that could break the morale of the other side, make them not quite ever feel that they're safe, even when they're not in open conflict, when they're sleeping in their bunks or, eating breakfast. Nighttime?
I think you saw that happen. I think it's like the second or third time you walk into Diamond City, there's a brother holding a gun at his sibling's head.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know you're a synth.
Right.
And he's like, he's not. It's just everybody's been driven crazy by paranoia to the point where a lot of these people are they're losing it, for lack of a better term.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a tough one. You're right. That's another angle that they could definitely use to their advantage. Well, guys, we're about halfway through the episode. Why don't we go to the middle of the show and thank our patrons, which are you guys and some other people, and we'll be back to talk about some of the other factions that would play a big part in the military operations of the Wasteland.
Hello there, old chap. Good to see another of General Atomic's finest, still eager to serve.
All right, here we are in the middle of the show, and thank you to all of our patrons. Absolutely, from the bottom to the tops of our synthetic hearts, and also real hearts. Don't worry, we're not synths. Maybe we are. So all 47 of you guys, this is amazing. You guys are phenomenal. Thank you so much for your support, and especially thank you to our Tier 5 and Tier 6 patrons. We've got Pie Man right here with us. Pie Man, thank you so much. Our Tier 6 Liberty Prime and our Sentry Bot, Devin A. Thank you as well for helping to support the show, and especially everybody else, because we wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. You guys are phenomenal. And if you are interested in helping to support the show, helping to get on a future episode, helping to define what we even talk about on these future patron episodes, then check out patreon.com/Fallout Lorecast and take a look at the different tiers. Everybody tier 4 or higher can join us at the end of each month in order to chat about whatever topic you guys would like to discuss. And even our tier 1 patrons get episodes early and ad-free episodes and a bunch of other stuff. And there's all sorts of other things in between. So thank you to everyone who supports the show. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. And you know what I should do, because I haven't think I've done this recently, is go through and thank some of our recent subs. Let's see. We've got, I'm just pulling it up right here. We've got Wave Shocked. Welcome, Wave Shocked, and Sound Dragon. Thank you for your support. And Sean M. and Jonathan S. and Key Panda and Mitchell L. I'm going back. I don't think I covered everybody in May, so I'm going to cover them as well. Jake B., Dalton S., and Alina R. Thank you to all of you guys. You guys You guys are the best. You help me and Lainey be able to do this show every week, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you so much.
We love you. We love you guys.
We love you guys.
Sending all the love.
All right, let's go back to the rest of the show.
If you have any questions about Nuka World, I'd be delighted to answer them.
All right. So, it looks like Blank Slater is having some internet problems, unfortunately. I hope you're able to get that stuff fixed out, and maybe we'll be able to join us next time. So let's see. Those are two of the major military forces in the Wasteland. Who else would you consider a major military presence? Nighttime.
The Railroad.
Okay.
Railroad's pretty interesting. I took last week I did a serious playthrough through all their missions and stuff. It is a very sneaky organization. They do not use direct contact. They protect themselves as much as they can for obvious reasons. As we talked about, they deal with a lot of a lot of their substations have been neutralized before by the Institute. Mm-hmm. Dead drops. They always use the classic spy tactics that are very hard to trace back to people individually or figure out where people are from and where they're going and what they're doing. But their big ace in the sleeve is PAM, which is the Predictive Analytic Machine, I believe is the acronym. And it is a Soltron that's been reprogrammed in order to computate and theorize future events.
Yeah, Pam is pretty cool. She's one of the one of the theories about who was behind the dropping of the bombs that started the war, which is interesting. I think I touched on it a little bit way back at the beginning of the show, one of the first episodes. But yeah, that is an interesting advantage. I haven't really thought about how that would be utilized. Have you considered the best ways to use that?
Well, not only do they use her to find and locate pre-war drops used by former intelligence agencies from the pre-war United States, but she also predicts incoming attacks and where future attacks should happen or where they can, where they can try to predict future movements of the Institute and what they think the Institute is going to do by whatever information that they gather. That they have that predictability, and then also Tinker Tom is having you put all types of what he would call weather stations, but they're just data collection devices, and he's having you put those all over Boston. So that's another thing that they can get. They can read energy readings, figure out where the Institute is transporting people. And they also have moles inside the Institute feeding them information.
Yeah. I'm sure that's not easy to do. Like, I don't remember specific details on how they achieved that, but I have to imagine that was very hard to achieve.
It seems to be through the synths. The Gen 3 synths, a few of them that are living in the Institute don't really appreciate being treated the way that they're treated. Mm-hmm. I think it was the last time I was playing Fallout 4. It was like my second or third time in the Institute after doing a couple of missions, and I was walking by a synth being experimented on by a doctor and said, just, whatever symptoms you may have, please report them. And it was this weird dichotomy of a person that knew he was being used as a guinea pig and expressed that. I hope that I would be a good testing subject for you, doctor. Mm-hmm. And I can imagine a lot of these synths are just playing the part and just biding their time so that they too can find a way out of the Institute through the help of the Railroad.
Right. Yeah, that's true. It's been a while since I've played those parts of the game, but now that you bring that up, it really does remind me that is the case. So finding inside help probably wasn't that hard once you can get back inside. The hardest part is probably just getting back inside.
And they could have probably done that if they had captured a courser or captured another Institute agent. And if it was a synth, they could have reprogrammed that person to be a double agent.
Yeah, as long as the Institute was unaware that person had been compromised, then they could
missing time.
Yeah. Then they could easily just go back and, be a double agent, pretend that they're still working for the Institute, but yet still be relaying information from the inside back out. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. You guys have any other thoughts on that stuff? Pieman or Laney or Blank? Blank is still trying to connect and make sure that we can hear him. What do you guys think? Pieman? Pieman's.
So first.
There you are.
Driving now.
Well, be safe.
I'm driving now. First, I never played as the Railroad. I always thought that they were super inferior. I thought their cause was not worth it.
Okay.
It was always war and destruction. It's always super war and destruction. It was weird.
Okay. I mean, you could argue that they were trying to protect the wasteland and the synths. I mean, there was the whole, synths are people thing. And I think we might have just lost Pieman. Oh, we just lost your video.
Yeah, no, I switched it off.
Okay.
Because I don't think you'd want to see me.
That's fine. All right. But yeah, they're not your bag, huh?
No, I never thought of synths as humans. Living, breathing, even if it looks like me, talks like me, and it bleeds like me, I still don't believe it unless it knows something personal about me. Like with synths, it's just, I never saw the purpose for the Railroad. I don't know why, but it does to put it in there.
Yeah. No, it's if you don't think synths can be actual people, then obviously you're not going to identify with them as a faction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whereas if you think the synths are people, then absolutely there needs to be somebody who's fighting for their rights, just like anybody else who's been discriminated against. Somebody needs to be standing up for them and trying to make sure that things are even and equal and that they have rights because they're people. But it just depends. It depends on your perspective on that. Is a synthetic human really a human? Do they have individuality, self-awareness, a soul? What does that mean to each of us? All of those kinds of questions are big. So yeah, I get that perspective. Totally. Mm-hmm. I always thought the synths were people. I was on the other side of it. I was like, they're anything that's self-aware and intelligent enough is a person, even if it's a robot. If it's self-aware, then it's a person. Self-awareness and intelligence, I think, are the two requirements for personhood. Now that opens up a whole bunch of other questions. Like, how do we even know that? How do we ever prove it? I don't know. But assuming that you could have proof of that, then yeah, I think that's a person. What do you think?
Gorillas and chimps are pretty close. I mean,
yeah,
the way they can communicate and the emotion that they feel, they're pretty close.
Right. Dolphins, elephants.
Yeah.
There are other creatures out there that when given tests to show if they can recognize themselves in a mirror or can communicate clearly or see themselves separate from their environments or think in certain objective kind of ways, they'll pass some of those tests. So, so for example, a chimpanzee, like the smartest of chimpanzees, is about as intelligent as a 4 to 6 year old in a lot of comparisons. So is a 4 to 6 year old a person? What was that, Nighttime?
I hope so. I said I hope so.
But is that because they're human? And so like somebody who has a religious perspective is going to say, well, they have souls and they were designed by God to be people, and a chimpanzee is an animal, and so therefore it's different. It doesn't work the same way, right? But if you take out the religious element of it and you just talk about self-awareness and intelligence, then maybe they're both people,
So I took like an intro to like evolution, all that, in college, and we went in depth into it. If chimpanzees were human,
or people, yeah.
We went through. There was a big section in my textbook all about that. It's still a big thing today. It's ridiculous. But my opinion, everything I'm going to bring religious into this, and you're probably going to take it out because people don't know this, but I'm religious.
Yeah, that's fine.
I like myself a religious
I think
person.
I don't.
Everything.
I try not to filter stuff out. I think everybody's perspective has merit. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe that God, in the beginning, science says there's the Big Bang. I believe God created the heaven and the earth. I don't believe in the Big Bang. Okay? I'll say that straightforward. People in Discord can hate me for that. I don't care. I don't believe that.
I don't think anyone's going to hate you for it. It's your opinion. That's fine. They may disagree with you.
Yeah, it's my opinion.
That's fine. That's totally fine.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Sure.
So, I also believe that God created everything. Like chimpanzees, humans, Adam and Eve, the garden, the Garden of Eden. I believe he did all that. So people not saying, all these tests about chimpanzees and, are they human or could they be human? I believe they could be human. They could be a less evolved type of human. But I believe that chimpanzees are human.
Well, I mean, they're not human because they're chimps, but are self-aware.
Not human, but
are self-aware.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Have a sense of self-awareness and I don't know. This is
know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, we're going a little off. Person. They would be considered personhood in some way. They have the right to their own. I don't know. There's so many different ways that we could talk about this, but this is a big topic, and it's worth its own complete episode talking about any of this stuff because you're right. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of different perspectives, and there's a lot of different reasons for those perspectives. But when it comes to the Institute and the synths, that's where we're at, right? And then when it comes to the Railroad, they're on the other side of that. They're against that. They want freedom for the synths, and they think they are people, and they have their reasons for believing so as well. So, deciding who's right and wrong, that's something that we all have to handle. And that's why these games are so interesting, is because they put you in that situation where you have to, you come up against that question and you have to figure that out. Right. So let's move on. We've got a little bit of time left. Who else is there? We've been talking mostly Fallout 4 groups. We've got the Railroad we just covered. Right. And then what about who else is out there? The Minutemen?
The creme de la creme, the Minutemen.
The creme de la creme. So,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead. Describe what the Minutemen would do.
So the Minutemen, they're your neighbors. They're the farmers. They're everybody that in the Commonwealth can be a Minuteman. They are your teacher, your shopkeeper, your barber. They're everybody, and they can be everybody. I think what's really why the Minutemen has such an edge is that they are the citizens of the Commonwealth. They want to make things better. They want to protect each other. And they do have a tactical edge. Their edge is that they are everywhere, and they do have artillery. They have the ability to conduct large-scale offensives, and they have the ability to call in artillery strikes. If you get a settlement and they decide to join the Minutemen and they're allied to you, you can build artillery at that position. And not only can you call them in with a flare gun if you need to take an objective, either knock out a raider base or you need to kill some super mutants, not only can you have a squad of your neighbors come by with their guns, but you can also call in an artillery strike.
Yep. What's really funny about that is that I had that option so many times and I always forgot to use it.
It's the best, though. It's like
it is.
So if you get 3 or 4 different settlements in one area and they can all converge, each one will fire about 5 shells. It'll make it look like it's the First World War. You'll just completely obliterate an area. What is it? If you take over Quincy, if you call an artillery bombardment on Quincy and you have most of the settlements around that area, and there's so many vehicles inside the settlement that it just obliterates everything.
That's awesome.
And then you just mop it up after.
Oh, I need to do that. It was one of those things that I just never did. I always just wanted to rely on my own ability to shoot at things. And I don't know. Maybe it felt like cheating a little bit. Maybe that was it.
Tom, you got to bring your friends that got guns.
I know, right? Right? Yeah, totally. Yeah, I just never did that. Pie Man, did you rain artillery on anybody in the game?
All time.
All the time.
All the time. Each of my settlements, because I'm going through a Minutemen storyline right now. I'm going through that again because I absolutely loved it. My character's name is George Washington.
That's great.
Hi
everyone. I'm George Washington.
George Washington.
Good old George Washington.
I'm George Washington.
That's awesome.
Each of my settlements that would join the Minutemen, of course, I play with mods, so I would always play with like unlimited supplies, so I'd be like cheating. But still,
all right.
But still, each of my settlements would probably have four artillery each. And literally, my frame rate each time I would do it would like drop to 0.
Yeah, it would just tank.
And I knew, yeah, especially when I was near the castle, because I put like 6 there, each in the couplets, and then 2 on the sides.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was awesome.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, I also destroyed Quincy also, so.
Kill the gunners. Get rid of them.
Yes,
Get them
yes. It's gross. They're gross. Their Brotherhood is still wannabes, pretty much.
All right. What about Blank? You're back. Are you able to chat now? We'll see how your voice does. Do you have any thoughts about the Minutemen? Or Laney? I'm not sure if Blank's connection's working. Oh.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed the Minutemen. I thought they were always a pretty good guy kind of group.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to fault them for defending themselves against, raiders and people trying to take their property and stuff. Like, that's pretty fundamental, right? Like, totally makes sense. And now the ability to like bombard other people that gets pretty intense, but that's pretty cool. Do you have anything else you wanted to add, Blank?
No, I think that's all I had to say about the Minutemen. I enjoy them pretty well.
Cool. Lainey, do you have any thoughts on any of these that we've brought up? Anything you want to chime in with or share about your playthroughs?
Hello. Okay. I really didn't spend a whole lot of time with the Minutemen. Well, I think, you get through the stuff with the castle, and then that's about it for me.
That's where you let them go. You're like, I'm done with you guys.
Cool. I think they're great. I think, they're very noble and they have a great cause. I was talking to my roommate about this the other day, where it really feels like they, like, in Fallout 4, when you first start out, they're some of the first people you meet if you're following the main story. And I feel like they kind of expire at a point. And I guess that just really has to do with how you play the game. But to me, and like what order you do things in, but to me, that's how it was. They're very interesting for a bit, but then once you start meeting other people and doing other things, they don't stand up against the other factions to me.
Well, they feel very less equipped than the other factions. Like, the other factions are much more established.
Yeah, for sure.
And when you meet the Minutemen, they're on their last legs. I mean, basically, Preston's like, hey, I'm barely holding it together here. We need a leader. I'm not that person. Can you be that person? And by the way, we've got nothing going for us anymore. It's basically the summary of what's going on. Can you maybe help us reestablish ourselves? And you have to build it back from there. So,
which I thought was probably the most human faction out of the entire game, is that taking that spark of the idea of helping your neighbor, providing for it. Well, your basic human, ideals of, helping each other and doing the right thing and, making sure that everybody is safe is what the Minutemen is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a fundamental thing, but it definitely feels like more of a struggle than signing up with the Brotherhood, who already seem very equipped, or being part of the Institute, who again seem very equipped, or even the Railroad, who are, lesser equipped, but still very capable and have their own, what could be argued is a positive moral agenda. So, yeah, I can see why people wouldn't necessarily side with the Minutemen right away, because it does seem like a much more uphill kind of thing.
It is, but you got to protect your farmers.
You got to protect your farmers. You got to, and the people who have spent a few generations now out in this wasteland, establishing themselves, trying to get back at normalcy, and yet they're dealing with all of the craziness of the wasteland and all these other factions and things. It's tough. It's tough out there on the farms.
The one thing I did want to add, just to close it all out, is the end game for each faction. The CIT, the Institute, their end game is kind of interesting because they each kind of follow how their faction is like organized and such. So when you destroy the Brotherhood as the Institute, they hijack Liberty Prime. They have him retarget the Pridwin and then destroy it. And then the Minutemen, the Minutemen's two-part. So the Minutemen will infiltrate the Institute through a backdoor sewer area on the Charles River. And then once you get in there, you will then beam in a couple of squads of Minutemen. And then you take the Institute. And then you go down to the reactor, much like the rest of the end game, and you detonate the reactor. But Preston tells you, I want you to activate the the evacuation command. He goes, we're not murderers, we're just here to kill the Institute. We just want to destroy their base. And if you don't hit the evacuation order, he hates you. You get a pretty big loss in affinity with his character.
Yeah,
that's not who Preston Garvey is. And he he's not about that. And then of course when the Minutemen,
he's a good guy through and through.
Yeah,
he just does what he needs to do when it comes to violence because he has to do it. But
he
ultimately,
says this is war. We're not murderers.
Right. No, that makes sense.
What he says.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then the last part was when the Minutemen destroys the Brotherhood of Steel. The whole point of that campaign was the quest Our Powers Combined was to build 5 settlements, each with an artillery unit, and to bombard the Brotherhood of Steel ship, to destroy it, and then you defend the castle against what the Brotherhood is good at, deploying knights in power armor and vertebrates. But it doesn't really work out well when you have missile turrets all across the castle.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I wonder, if and when we get a follow-up to Fallout 4, an actual timeline follow-up, whether that's Fallout 5 or some other game they're going to do in the future, which of those endings will be considered canon?
Well, that's the trick that they play, isn't it? That they always change the location. Right. So there's no real way to tell what the canon ending was.
Yeah.
Other than Broken Steel from Fallout 3, obviously siding with the Enclave wasn't the canon ending.
Right. That's clearly not.
No, it wasn't.
Not the way it goes. Yeah. But it seems like the destruction of the Institute would mean an ending for more synths in the Wasteland. Right. So unless if you're actually seeing active synths in the Wasteland that are working for the Institute, they survived. So it can't be any ending where they're wiped out. If you don't see that,
this is true.
Yeah, then it could be proof that these other groups survived. If you see the Pridwin, then you're going to know that the Brotherhood didn't lose the Pridwin, right? So there are some tells that could occur that would kind of lead us to certain conclusions about how the game ended and which ending it was. But I think we're gonna have to wait a number of years before we see anything about that at all.
Especially with all the other games coming out.
Yeah,
it's going to be quite a while for another Fallout.
Another mainline Fallout.
And all these DLCs for 76.
Yeah, well, 76 is going to be a game as service, kind of like Elder Scrolls Online is, and they're just going to. They have a team that's. Yeah, and this is something I think is good to clear up. they have their own team working on that. That just because 76 is doing better and is continuing to create more content doesn't mean that that fact is going to delay us getting another Fallout. What's going to keep us from getting another Fallout from the main team is getting Starfield and TES 6 out. Once they get those out, then potentially they switch back and they do a Fallout 5. Unless with the being underneath Microsoft and the ability to use Oblivion as a studio or some other side studio getting created underneath Bethesda.
Obsidian.
Or I'm sorry, Oblivion. Yeah. Oblivion is a game. Thank you. Stuck in my head. Then we may get some sort of side studio doing some sort of mainline Fallout game, but not the core Bethesda studio that works on these traditionally. So we may get something sooner than that. But then, and if we did, is it going to be a continuation of the story a la Fallout 5, or is it going to be like a New Vegas 2 or a remaster of 3 in New Vegas, or are we going to get other side kind of content rather than something that goes further into the story and the timeline? So or an isometric game.
They might do Fallout Florida next.
That would be cool.
No. I'm subscribed to a YouTube channel. It's just a mod development team. They're doing Fallout Miami.
Yeah, I've heard about that, and
awesome.
That'll be fun to check out. I don't live in Miami, but I've been there a few times, and I think it would be cool if it like matches actual real world locations. If they did a Fallout Florida and it wasn't Miami, I think Orlando would be the next most fun place to do, because you have all the theme parks. You have there are certain places and different kinds of things around that area that you could really pull from. But with the theme parks being so branded, I have a feeling they couldn't do it. Like, you couldn't have Mickey Mouse in there unless you had the rights to use Mickey Mouse, or any of the other theme parks have specific rights.
Nuka World is kind of like a rip-off of Hershey Park.
And
I agree.
In that sense, they kind of already did that. Yeah. So the other place, I mean, you could do like St. Augustine, which is one of the oldest cities in the country, but it's not very big. So I don't know that would make sense to do.
You did St. Augustine, or probably some other areas too. You could utilize the forts that are in the area. So imagine if you could go to St. Augustine in the game and turn, what's this there? I can't think of the name of it. I visited it like a year ago.
Yeah.
You could turn a fort into, let's say, a settlement. That would be so cool.
Yeah, but St. Augustine isn't actually that big. Like the amount of downtown area there is very small. And then outside of that, there's like a lighthouse and not too many other really cool locations to go. So I would imagine
lighthouse could be cool though, because of ghosts and stuff. You could like make it really spooky.
Oh, totally.
In there
I would imagine that you would want a bigger.
There's something interesting about St. Augustine that could really come through it in a Fallout game.
Oh, very true. One of the other things they could do is make it kind of squished down, kind of like the Fallout 76 map is, and have places like that. You have a place that is kind of like Orlando. You have a place that's kind of like St. Augustine. You have a place that's kind of like, I don't know, Jacksonville or
Panama City.
Panama City. Like, there's a lot of other kinds of places you could go to and just kind of squish them down in map form. So you could do that as well.
That's what I liked about 76. It was kind of that blend of the Fallout 1, Fallout 2, and then Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas. Instead of just being one city, one metroplex, and then some surrounding rural area, it kind of spread it over a much larger region and kind of blended the two. So you could actually travel in between rather than just, having your little icon travel across the screen to the next town.
Yep.
Yeah, I hate game jumping, but this sort of sounds like GTA San Andreas.
Uh-huh. Yeah. The same kind of thing where you have like these different zones that all kind of work together in the same map. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I got to get going soon, so why don't we wrap it up? This has been a fun talk about Fallout 4. We may want to do the same kind of thing with Fallout New Vegas in the future. Talk about those different factions and how, they handle this kind of stuff. That could be a lot of fun as well. Let's go back through and say goodbye to everybody. We're going to go back down the list. So, Blank, if you're there and able to respond, if your internet's working, then please let us know if you have anything else going on that you want to share, or ways people can get a hold of you outside of just reaching out on Discord, if you'd like to share that as well. I don't know if Blank is there. I'm not seeing the unmute change. So if you can hear us and you want to chime in by the end, just let me know. Pie Man, you got anything else going on? Anything you want to share? Ways people can get a hold of you?
Well, I'm sort of going to pull a aperture here. So the one true way you can communicate me, go find a dolphin. Speak in dolphin language. Go have the dolphin find me wherever I am. Probably in Florida, or I've been going to like Oklahoma recently. It's weird.
Those are two very different places.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so send a dolphin.
But send the dolphin. If I see a dolphin in a car, first I'll freak out because someone actually did it. Second, I'll yeah.
You'll get the message, and you'll send a dolphin back. Is that how it's going to work?
Yeah, it's kind of like a carrier pigeon.
Right. Carrier dolphin. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, but seriously, you can reach me on the Discord, Maverick, whatever my username is now. I usually go by Maverick, Pie Man, Liberty Pie, Lord Stefan Darkvein when D&D comes around again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're changing it up all the time.
Yeah. This is actually the first month I've actually kept it the same. It's weird.
Yeah,
I feel weird about it, but
you just got to keep changing it up.
But yeah, and I'm always driving. So if you just want to hang out, over voice chat, just DM me. I'm welcome to chat. I get super bored because it's the same thing each week. Seems like.
Yeah.
So
yeah, driving.
If you just want to talk, cool.
Oh, cool, man. All right, nighttime.
Everything's going good. Just hit me up on Discord if you want to talk about different Fallout topics. Personally, I tried my first cherry tomato off of one of my tomato bushes today. It's very good. Very glad. I feel like I've been waiting way too long to get my harvest in. So that's kind of cool. And have a good night, everybody.
That's awesome. So you're growing. You've got like a garden back there with stuff also.
I have a lot of stuff growing.
Yeah.
Green chilies, bell peppers, 3 different varieties of tomatoes. I'm starting tobacco.
Wow.
I have corn.
Are you allowed to do that? Is that like a legal crop?
Yeah, you can grow it. You just can't sell it. It's like I'm allowed to have a pot still in my basement. I just can't produce liquor, kind of thing.
Got it. Yeah.
I can't drill pinholes and third pinholes in AR-15 receivers, but I can have drill bits in AR-15 receivers. Right. That's a joke, everybody.
Right. Okay. Yeah, my wife has been planting more plants in our backyard with started with some herbs and things, and now she's growing some mini cucumbers and some other stuff. So some lettuce.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. It's really rewarding.
She calls them her babies.
They are. They're precious, and you have to protect them.
Do you talk to them? You'd be like, "Hi, babies."
How's everybody doing? I go, you have cute flowers.
Yeah, you talk to them like babies.
I got potatoes. I love my potatoes. They're adorable. They grow. They're so fast.
And then you eat
them. They're so strong.
Yeah.
Eat them, and then if whatever you got left over, you just put them back in the ground and get more potatoes. It's like you have kids, and then they have kids, and then they have kids.
It's crazy.
You just keep
potatoes are so weird. Potatoes. Yeah, they just grow roots out of themselves. They're so weird. Well, cool, man. I'm glad you're having fun with that. Lainey, you got anything to share before we go?
Yeah. So obviously I was in Alabama this weekend, and it was really fun. And we were deep in the woods, so I didn't have any signal or anything, and it was just really nice. I could live in the middle of nowhere, maybe not Alabama, but I could live in the middle of nowhere forever. I could really do it. I keep saying to my fiance CJ that I would love to just, I don't know, somewhere colder, probably more liberal because the whole gay thing. And then, find a good spot in the middle of nowhere. I want like in a mountain, but like near the ocean, maybe some like Pacific Northwest type deal. And then
the
just
temperature's
never
120 degrees right now.
again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, cool. As long as you've got good internet and we can keep recording.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when I came back from. I literally I got out of the car and then got on this call, which is funny, but it was nice. And then if you guys want to reach me, up until the point where I moved to the middle of nowhere and don't talk to anyone anymore, you can reach me at Nias Pandora on Discord and Twitter and Instagram and Twitch and probably other places too. Who knows? So
who knows?
Come say hi.
Go say hi.
I really do want to talk to more of you. So please don't be afraid to reach out. I don't bite.
Well, stream some more, and I'm sure people will pop in again. So you got that going.
Yeah, I got get on that.
Gotta get on that. All right. Well, let's see. Anything else going on with me? All the regular stuff. You guys know I've got tons of shows. If it's a night of the week, then there's a very high chance that after 9 p.m. Eastern that we're doing a show. And Lainey will be back in just like 2 days with our next episode. We're going to be diving back into some of the Nightkin and the individual Nightkins and quests and stories about them. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll be back to that stuff very soon. And again, sorry this episode's coming out a little bit late, but we got it out there for you, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next time. Until next time, stay safe out there in the wasteland. We'll see you later. To plug into everything else we're doing, check out robotsradio.net. Also, look up the Robots Radio YouTube for videos about Fallout and other things. And check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/robotsradio.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.